Well, I wasn't exactly sure whether I was going to do a video on this, but I did kind of feel like in the end, sorry, I probably look like an absolute mess here, but basically I just wanted to get a video up and talk about this. Basically tonight, although more than likely last night whenever you're watching this, basically Thursday, the March the 14th, 2019 at the time of recording, me, Dan, Andrew, a few of my close friends, Dan, Andrew, then Paul and Pete, who you've seen here on YouTube quite a while back actually. We went to Victor's pub in Sunderland, and it was for £5. We paid for an event which had Sunderland owner Stewart Donald there. It had Nick Barnes, Kevin Ball, Kieran Brady, and then obviously you get pie and peas with it. So we thought, okay, this will be a good night to listen to our owner, talk about all these things and so on. And I didn't know that Kevin Ball, George, Kieran Brady were going to be there. I didn't know most of the stuff that was going to happen tonight, actually. This event, originally myself, I was thinking, oh, this will be great for Stewart Donald, great to listen to him. As it turns out, it was a fundraiser for the charity called Men Health, for which I've got a leaflet, actually, in the bag I took with me. But I did think it was important, actually, to sort of really talk about these things, because mental health is a problem that's a stigma, especially for men. Now, I know women obviously get it as well, but mainly for men, it is quite a stigma to come out and actually try and talk about your emotions and how we feel about situations. And to hear someone like Kieran Brady, for example, someone who I've admired and looked up to, even though I never got to see him play, even though I wasn't a football at the time he was playing when I wasn't, as you know, I've only been in it 7 years or so, but even just to hear him talk about Sunderland, I admire, because most of the things he said I completely agree with about Sunderland, and you don't want me to bore you with that. Go and look at my videos from the last couple of seasons prior to this one. I've rambled on enough, I'm not going to bore you with that. But I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. Kieran Brady talked about his alcoholism issues many years ago, and the fact that he's now been sober for nearly 10 years, and that is an incredible feat for him. As you know, I don't like alcohol myself, but it was great to see someone like Kieran Brady, someone I've admired and looked up to. My respect has gone from multiple levels through the roof, and a lot of the stuff that was being talked about tonight, and there was a lad called Paul, I think his name's Paul, so correct me if I'm wrong here, who works at Men's Health, and he basically talked about suicidal thoughts, about how things are bottled up and how there's a stigma, and about statistics about how, for example, one of them was that suicide is the biggest killer for males under the age of 45, I think. It's like late 40s age, something along those lines. And a lot of the stuff really resonated with me personally, because I've debated about whether or not to talk about this on YouTube a lot. But if you guys remember the 10 years on video that I did 2.5 years ago, the response I got from that was absolutely amazing. And it was about, basically, long story short, for those of you who haven't seen it, it was about the 10-year anniversary of my mother, and it was about me trying to talk about my journey, dealing with autism, moving from place to place to place, dealing with my mum's death 10 years on, so on. That was the nutshell and what it was about. But now I really wanted to sort of talk about mental health a little bit. And it's a subject that I've been debating in my head whether or not to actually talk about, because I think it is something that definitely needs addressing here. Just recently, I made a very big mistake where I got given 2 very important letters to post, because I was in Manchester over the weekend seeing my family, and got 2 letters to post on the way back. I forgot to do it on the Tuesday, and then I think it was the Wednesday morning, the day after I came back, because basically when we played Barnsley, that was the night I came back, and that was on a Tuesday, and on the Wednesday I was meant to try and take 2 letters to post in the post box. So I put it in my bag, which has like a side net, so to speak. It's basically got like, in fact I'll quickly show you. It's got that, pretty much. And I thought I'll put the letters in there. They won't blow out or anything, or I didn't think that anything would happen when I get into Sunderland, because I was playing football with Autism Able that day, that they'll be alright. Turns out they fell out somehow, or got blown out, or whatever. And yeah, safe to say it's not great that I lost 2 important letters, and it was really important letters actually. But really, I've beat myself up for that mistake ever since. And I've felt like a burden in that sense. And in general, I feel like a burden. Sometimes I feel like an issue that someone else could do without. So for example, if I make a mistake, I really beat myself up for it, because I feel like I've then created a problem for someone else, something that if I wasn't here, they could very easily do without. Also as well, you look at the fact that I don't feel like I can ask for anything from anyone, and I hate the idea of doing it, because I feel like I'm insignificant, I'm irrelevant, and I'm unworthy of getting something that I want. I feel like that I'll just be much better off if I just don't bother asking, so I don't feel like a burden to anybody else, and then things will be easier from there. And it's the same thing with like trying to find a relationship. There are sometimes some days where I really do want to find someone, and there are some days where I feel like, well, I'm not going to be good for them anyway, so there's no point. Now I know that obviously sounds garbage, but sometimes with mental health, that's really what it feels like. And I've got at least one really close friend who's got mental health problems. It eats at you every single day, and a lot of the times I feel like sometimes when just asking simple things or telling people what I'm doing, I feel like I'm just a problem that someone else can do without. And that's what I mean. And sometimes that mindset really gets into my head. It's hard. It's hard to deal with it every day, I'm not going to lie. The reason I'm telling you this, though, is partly out of wanting sympathy. I do seek reassurance from people, which I'm ashamed to some extent by, but I do sometimes seek reassurance that I'm not a burden, I'm not a problem, and that I am loved. And I know to an extent I am loved, but I mean, like, I'm not just creating problems for other people. I'd like to hope that I bring some level of joy to people's lives and somewhat inspire them. But, pardon me, but nevertheless, the other point is, why I'm talking about this is to really sort of emphasize the importance of mental health, and how, for me, sometimes coming on YouTube and talking about it is my way of dealing with it. Sometimes I feel like I can't approach people, again, through feeling like it's a problem, that I'm being a problem for someone else they can do without, or worry that they can do without. And sometimes me talking to a camera, talking to my phone basically, and putting this up on YouTube, sometimes it's my way of dealing with it. Sometimes putting it on social media is my way of dealing with it. And the response I usually get is amazing. I've got at least one really close friend who's got pretty much depression problems. I wouldn't count myself as having depression, but sometimes I do feel like I do have it. But the whole other point that I'm telling you this is mainly because to see someone like Kieran Brady, who's a well-respected figure in Sunderland, and he's obviously quite well known, for someone like him to really come out and talk about this openly, and to hear other people come out and talk about it openly, really got me thinking about mental health. And the event at Victor's was inspiring, it was humbling, and it was engaging. I really loved what I was hearing. Some of the stories were downright touching, and there was a couple of funny ones here and there, but mostly it was the mental health side of things was worth it for the £5 alone, irrespective if you got food or not. And then obviously on a lighter note, we listened to Stewart for an hour and a half, so it was great. So I really enjoyed going, and I want to thank Daniel Jenks, one of my close mates, as a shout out for him if he's watching this, for suggesting that we go. I'm really glad he did now, because I think that for a £5 you got an absolute bargain for what you got. You really got your money's worth. But look, I really respect Kieran Brady, I respect everyone who came up, and I want to offer to you guys, if any of you are having problems with mental health or depression, feel free to comment below, and I will happily have a conversation with you whenever I can, because I want to offer you some sort of a platform to use and share this video with people, because I want to emphasize it, how crucial it is to talk about mental health, even if it's just through social media or on YouTube or in the comments of YouTube, or wherever you feel comfortable doing it. At least confide in somebody, even if it's online. I love you and leave you there, guys. It's a bit of a different video, so I do apologise, and hopefully it's 8.5 minutes of me not talking rubbish. So I love yous and leave yous. I'll get my matchday vlog out for Walsall coming up on Saturday. Hopefully get the 3 points, but until then, see yous later.